Good morning. This is George Lees's miraculous living room again. Yeah, I'm gonna try and pull a trick or two later on in the programme. It's really simple. If you've got people that are prepared to do anything they can to save their souls. Yeah, but I do fear any disclosures to the Inland Revenue or the Customs and Excise people. Okay, so please keep it quiet if my miracle works later on. Right then, I want to tell you about how in peacetime and in wartime corrupted the Vatican is. And I'm not making this video on the Sabbath because I want them to have 24 hours to prepare their pathetic defence. It's getting really dangerous for the local clerics to prepare their defences because we've had several cardiovascular accidents in the chapel recently. We've had financial services fraudsters knighted and proclaimed openly from the altar. Yeah, and that icon that they wear there is all over the brutalised world. So I sent myself an email this morning and it contained this. This. So, the papacy, witches, war dead, Ratzingers and Pied Pipers everywhere. Okay? And I sent it to myself. But I referred it to the Vatican because everybody, as you now know, is allowed to surveil everything that I do in my own home, which is why I'm giving them 24 hours this weekend to prepare their defence in all its futility. Let me just play you some more music so I can show you how cheap shot the war crimes and the peacetime crimes are. And as that music plays, I will show you some of the tabs that I've got on my OneNote file that I emailed to myself on the papacy in World War I, because I watched this video yesterday, and Blackadder in all of his jokes. Remember, the Time Team are sponsored by Walt Disney. Yeah, so in the Blackadder jokes I was listening to yesterday, they kept mentioning a pope I'd never heard of before, and his name is Gregory the Ninth. That will be explained later on. The title for this edition, because you now know how they work, they make up jokes about other events in world history. So this one's about Captain Cook, corporal punishment and Major Star. But the episode I got the reference to Pope Gregory the Ninth is about the trenches in World War I, and Butcher Haig, played by that bastard there, who pretends already that he's psychiatrically unhinged. But the project that they are doing is that they're using the same technique of taking soldiers right in front of the Gatling guns out of the trenches. They're doing it for the 19th time to surprise the Germans, and the goal of that project is to move his drinks cabinet 2 meters further towards Berlin. Isn't that funny? Yeah, they do not use the occult or the religious mythology or any dance of deaths. They just take the piss out of the war dead, and this one in that episode prepares the meals from the rats, which are an integral part of the last Pope Benedict. His name was Ratzinger, and the Pied Piper of Hamelin comes into all of the warmongering stories through all of Aryan history, and that is the Piso joke. Yeah, I spent hours looking for the Pisos on occult websites last night. None of them reveal it, but that is what makes it tick along. They keep changing the stories, and all of the media men and all of the false news sectors and all of the Freemasons spend their whole life covering up investigations like the ones I've engaged in the last 12 hours. So look to your laurels. Yeah, that is the pathetic jokes about the war dead and the wreaths that you place around the cenotaph every year. Yeah, all of it is pre-planned and ruthless. Right then, I can close that site down now and save some time and space on my disk. Let me take you to the tabs on this thingy, just in case I run out of time, and you can look up the key themes for yourself if you have a will. Okay, so the title of this section in my OneNote profile, which is massive now, yeah, and which is why they will not let me upload PDFs onto my Google Sites web page, because those PDFs will bring the world leadership team to its knees within less than a week. Okay, so this one's about the papacy in World War I, because I looked up Gregory the Ninth, and he was around in the 12th century. Yeah, when we were in the Holy Lands, but none of the titles tell you that this is about the religious crusades, or even the genocidal investigations that they have, which is called the Inquisition, and that is what Pope what's his face, the Ninth, Gregory the Ninth, is involved in the execution of witches globally, the burning them at the stake in the bonfire, and the creation of the peer pressure groups that demonize the pagan religions like witchcraft, which is the Wiccans thing. They still have a massive following, and I believe that there still are witches in my hometown, and those terms min that we keep using and the references to the Jewish angels, all of it is a series of twisted stories that allow you, under the name of the law, to execute people who are in rival denominations. It's really, really clever, and it's really, really effective. Okay, which is why the Blackadder bastards laugh at it, yeah, and why they're prepared to laugh at the killing of their own race in a battle with their own race, because they're profiteering in that race through New York, through Berlin, through all of the epicenters that are now the G8, and Genoa keeps coming into the story. Okay, so we've got references to World War I and Pope. The real Pope in World War I was Pope Pope Benedict the 15th, which is presumably why Ratzinger was picked so recently to cover up the crimes from really genuine and insightful fraud investigators. Yeah, and his real name is explained later on Google Maps, and all of the interlocks and all of the jokes about St. Paul, who launched the Christian Bible beyond the Mediterranean and right up into mainland Europe. The laughs at the non-existence of the real God, yeah, and the Baptist movement, yeah, the happy clappy people that eventually become the YMCA on the west coast of America with Arnie Schwarzenegger, and it's all part of the same joke. Okay, so what they were laughing at in the World War I movie when they mentioned Captain Cook, who brutalised on behalf of the British the South Pacific, yeah, they're obfuscating all of the truths about the content of their videos, but they understand every one of the jokes. This one went to America, and he plays Bertie Wooster in the P.G. Wodehouse movies and the P.G. Wodehouse comedies that are shown on British television right back into the late 1950s. Okay, and P.G. Wodehouse was accused of being a profiteer and a deserter to the he's an American who lives in America as a British citizen, but he does a lot of his work in Berlin as a friend of the Third Reich, and the whole thing is totally typical of everything I utter in every one of my disclosures. It's all entirely for profit, to make the world chaotic and really, really dangerous. And it's really, really dangerous even if you're in contention to be the next Pope, because they think nothing about taking them down. That's all through this story. And the English Pope is really, really sinister. Yeah, because he is English speaking, he's brought up in Bournemouth, and he's brought into the team to elect the new popes that are in charge in World War II and in World War I, and the whole thing is totally twisted. And you've got references to Jewish angels all through the story. That's the Raphael, the links to Monaco and the Formula One racing. It's the Jim Clark rally today. It's also the race meeting in town. I'm going to have some really interesting conversations today, because everybody in my region knows what I'm doing, and the man who's in the Robbie Williams video is in the region. I forget what the name of our racing driver was that was the champion when I was a boy. He's in the region today, and last year, this is the anniversary of 2 deaths in the rally, and when I saw the police at work last year, they were frisking 12-year-old children on the town bridge for drugs. The whole of the sad bastards spend their whole lives ignoring the massive genocides and all the money laundering that goes on, and they're prepared to persecute young kids aged 12 on the town bridge to cover up everything that they cover up. That's law enforcement Scotland, law enforcement England, law enforcement New York Police Department. The whole thing is a stitch up. Then there's the references to people who have the word Zulu in their names, who are the people in the administration for the Nicene regimes that elect the popes, kill some of the contenders, and then they run banks in London, and they're still fucking there, and I've got all their business details. Okay, that's the Zulu banking scandal, and you need massive wars in South Africa to cover that up in Hollywood. Okay, and those are minor financial criminals. I've never heard of them until this morning, but their legacy in London is ruthless. They are massive Ponzi schemes. Then we get the truth about Gregory the Ninth and the witch burning and all of the offshoots that are affiliated to the United Nations and organised politics like that. That's the United Nations that appoint the corrupted bankers to be their heads. Yeah, that's the MacKillops and the man that ran the Dunblane scandals, all of the stuffs that we talk about. Saint MacKillop is a saint in Australia already. They work really quickly in the cover-ups, but they are really nervous and tremorous now, because they know there is a God, and they know that every one of their false news watch moves is being watched and monitored, which is why Pope Francis has the limp within a few days of his inauguration, and all of the footage of the massive lightning storms on the night that he was inaugurated in the Roman building that looks just like the White House, just like St. Paul's, and all of the iconic things that we were told not to do about false religion. Yeah, all of them are the epicenters for the frauds now. Okay, and we've got all of the mysticism is tied into the men from Mars and the people from outer space that are going to come and brutalise our world and steal from it and take over the ownership of it, as if mortals were not capable of that, and subsidiarising the one true God in the skies if there is only one. I'm simple enough not to try and declare things that I do not understand. My wife's name's Val. The next bit is on the Val d'Or project. That's the Fields of Gold project and the jokes that ensue. Then we've got a list of popes to Ratzinger, but because Ratzinger has had to be defected from office because of the massive amount of attention that the English-speaking world can now put into the German Pope that was lauded and greeted into London, yeah, he is now in his retirement home, which is in the Alba region of Rome, in the Park Hotel. Yeah, that's the parks that brutalised Africa and emerged out of Selkirk, with links to the parks of Hamilton, which became the bus chain. Then it became the massive hotel chain. And my links of Van Trip to the TripAdvisor website and the local owners who worship at two different denominations but used to run the Queen's Head pub. Yeah, they worship at two denominations because the whole of this plan relies on deceiving people all around the world so that you can profit from them in your sector of life. Then we've got a little bit about the end of nigh being prophesied even by the Vatican, but because all of them have had to defect for exposure reasons with horrible limps, they are now short of time. And when it says on the Alpha to Omega Paschal candle that the end of the world is nigh, they have got the year 2014 listed on that. We've now gotten safely through that, and there are 3 or 4 former popes, because there's a black pope and there's the real pope at the Vatican. The black popes used to be Jesuits called I forget what the name is, but we'll find it out as we open each one of the tabs, okay? And then we can find Gregory the Ninth on Wikipedia and what he used to do, which the Blackadder team find really, really funny. Let me show you a few of the tabs that I've highlighted, and to show you that all of this for the world leaders is a perpetual joke. But now that the world is understanding what it does to them and their children in the uniforms, they are getting really, really nervous. And the priest last week had a tremor in his hand that was uncontrollable. Sorry, 2 weeks ago when I sat in the second row, and the bench in the second row, the wood is becoming detached from the shelf that's on the bench, and everything is a message that all of this is going to be busted wide open. Yeah? Right then, what else did I highlight? So here's Pope Benedict visiting London and all of the fuss that we get.
No, just waving at the camera.
It's kind of like a funeral carriage, and it's funereal white, as in the Godfather Mafia movie. Do you remember those bits? Yeah, it's pathetic, and the whole world swallows it, although there were protesters, because this was quite late in his regime. Yeah, and his name was Ratzinger. He was a member of Hitler Youth. He was interned, oh no, sorry, that's Tiny Rollins. This guy trained in Hitler Youth. Yeah, his first name is Ratzinger, and all of the popes get to use the alter ego false ID that many people use even on Facebook. Yeah, and that's justified by them because they know that Facebook is an intel tool and they don't want the real ID to be known. Yeah, all of it is used by the Brazilian footballers, the Spanish footballers, the Portuguese footballers, and all of the people in Hollywood are allowed to adopt stage names. And Brian Cox still frustrates me. That's the owner, the actor from Hollywood that is the Chancellor at Dundee University. Okay, 5 homes in America. And then we get the jokes. Okay, so there's more on the Pope's visit to London and the protests. He visits, when he comes here, the head of the Church of England. That's the Queen in Scotland. And the coverage there is by Russia Today, who are money launderers on a massive scale, who have a man called Kaiser, who runs a cheap shot set of financial crimes on gold trading and bitcoins. Yeah, and all of them employ the Suchet family, that are the detectives that failed to solve the killing of John F.K. But Suchet and the Poirot character attended his funeral for a laugh a few years before they began to broadcast the Poirot detective programs. And he's a private detective. He works strictly for profit. Sorry, I'm not getting to the nub of the religious fraud just yet, but I want to show you. So there's the inauguration of Pope Benedict the 16th. Yeah, the Benny bit is a joke about the Bens and the power of the name Ben in an Israeli context, because all of this is about the suppression of the other religion, or the demonization of it, to take all of the attention away from all of their massive financial crimes. Okay, so
without the aids of a strength,
Io sono per dietro.
the one and only Pinocchio.
What a builder.
So, the cricket, the knock on wood jokes, the tell lies to the parishioners jokes, and the wood joke is the crucifixion joke, if you had not noticed it. The son of a shoemaker joke, that's Schumacher, the racing car driver, sadly had an accident. Those are not accidents. Okay? The son of the shoemaker is Archbishop Hoodle. All over my website, looks just like Ronnie Corbett. Yeah, he is the man that helped Pope Pius XII, whose story has already been told all over my website, about the Odessa diasporas in World War II, about all of the scandals of all of Hitler's friends and the commanders-in-chief on all sides being laundered out of neutral Spain. Yeah, being taken through the Canary Islands and being loosed into fascist Latin America, which is in part the Valdivia and the jokes about the fields of gold, because the fields of gold are the Saragossa Sea, and they have been buried already, because I believe that that is Atlantis, and Saragossa Sea was really turbulent. When Columbus went across it in the other direction, he was already lost. Okay, that is now called the Golden Triangle. Yeah, because that's the cover for the narcotics wars that ensued after they were in Latin America, and that's the involvement of Kissinger and the brutalization of Southeast Asia, Vietnam and Korea, with all of those Hawkeye characters in the story. Can't remember what else I was going to show you, but do you get the picture? All of the popular culture and Disney are the sponsors for the Time Team, and he is the man that officially releases the archaeological news to Britain. Since Julius Caesar built his Mithraea, and he's got the same initials as Jesus Christ, and that is not an accident, like the naming of the recent Pope. Okay, so Benedict the 15th is a major focus in this story. Not sure what else we had. So there's the Shoemaker Walt Disney theme music, and Walt Disney, the whole of their output are the stories about the Pussies and the Hanna-Barbera characters and all of the Pizzo menagerie. Yeah, on all of those occult websites where I've got the tags, explaining World War I and the papacy during those very turbulent years, yeah, you have got no reference at all to the Piso family, but when you look at the names of the authors of the sites, it is the Piso fraudsters. It's easy to understand once I show you the pictures. So let's start now on this. And the sad thing about OneNote is that when I post pages, they don't necessarily come up in the order that I want them to. So let's start with the Pope in World War I and what I've highlighted for him already. Okay, he's a kind of sleazy looking guy. Yeah. So in the Blackadder episode entitled Captain Cook for No Reason, in the climax to World War I, they twice refer to Pope Gregory IX, who reigned in the 13th century. This Benedict was the actual World War I Pope. Okay, that portrait was taken in 1915. War's already a few months old. Remember, it started in the late period of 1914. See the next page. Pope Gregory IX was the witch hunter and the great inquisitor, which is hilarious to the time team. See hits on Gregory IX in the next page. Okay? So, what you've got is the predecessor to this guy is already the Piso joke. That's the pi word at the beginning of his name, and the pus word that is consumed in that name is explained by all of the old Piso jokes, the Cybele jokes, the Calpurnius Piso jokes. Okay? And what you've got is the successor was also a pious. And Pius XII is the Nazi Pope in World War II, who helps the son of the shoemaker, whose name is Hudal, to get the Nazis the fuck out of those turbulent countries. Okay? He was ordinated by a man who just happened to be the cardinal in Aquila, which is also all over my website. It's the most earthquake prone region in the whole of Italy, right next door to Paganonia. Look at the videos I made with John Patterson on a religious fraud and the keywords Paganonia and L'Aquila, where they have now built, because they get earthquakes there, a nuclear plants. Yeah, so they defy God relentlessly, and they know that if God gives that another earthquake, that the innocent citizens and the worshippers will be the subjects of the nuclear fallout. Isn't that clever, that the humans still contest the world ownership with our gods? The man's name is Raphael. This is the man who inaugurated Pius the 12th. Sorry, who inaugurated the the name of the Pope that we're looking at here. My memory is really frail, but the name of that seedy looking guy is Benedict the 15th. Yeah, and the man who nominated him, yeah, chief of the administration, is from L'Aquila, where all of the Roman churches that are erected there get knocked over in all of the earthquakes, and the last one of them was very, very recent, and you can see the details of that on my website. Okay, so he's appointed, this Pope Benedict the 15th, by Raphael, which is the Jewish angel, Monaco, which is the hub for the world's elites, La Valletta, with 2 T's in it. T is the Christian cross. And Valdivia was the scene of one of the second biggest earthquake the world has ever known. Okay, that's where Pinochet's friends were trained in the genocidal sector in peacetime. Okay, so what we've got is the pi word comes up again and again, and these popes are engaged. The one who is way back in the 13th century demonizes black cats and puts down any linkage with the Calpurnius story, and that because God does not like the humans to be more powerful in the news releases than he is, that leads to the launch of the Great Plague, because the rats are everywhere and the cats are taken down because the popes do not like the Piso story to come out. Do you get the picture? That's the bubonic plague. When I mention that word now, everyone panics. Right then. So, and this guy was born, the Pope, was born in Genoa, Pegli, the kingdom of Piedmont. Pie is the kiss the foot joke, which got the word pie in it, which is why all of the Hollywood movies with the word pie in it win the Oscars. And Sardinia is a place where they kill little fishes called sardines in a celebration called the Matanza. That's the brutalization of the world's worshippers. Yeah, the Matanza is a slaughter of those tiny fishes. And you know the goldfish joke, that is Nathan Mayer Rothschild's penis, because he sires all of the European elites in Queen Victoria's bedroom that eventually become the European monarchs all over Europe, and it's brutalised twice in that man's lifespan. Okay, and the birth name for this guy, before he changes it, is Giacomo Paolo Giovanni Battista della Chiesa. Yeah, so it's slightly more complicated than your stage name in Hollywood, and it gets abused quite a lot. So previous posts: Under Secretary of State, Archbishop of Bologna, the Bologna joke, and Cardinal Priest of Santi Quattro Coronati. Look at Susie Quattro, scantily clad pop singer. All of it has to be launched to cover these massive religious and financial services frauds, because the Rothschilds run this lot as well. Right then, ordinary history of Pope Benedict XV. The sun's gone in for the first time in a magnificent morning. Okay, born Giacomo Paolo Giovanni Battista del Chiesa. Okay, so I've dissected that on Google Translate. G is Cono Pasilio. G is, it's too small to see it. So God is Paulo, that's St. Paul, who pretended that Jesus Christ is God and loosed all of that evangelistic message. He was a tax collector, another financial services joke since the beginning of biblical time. That's the New Testament biblical time. The Old Testament is equally fraudulent and always mind-bending. It condones slavery, it condones poverty, it condones the king. All of the Babylonian myths become their iconic targets. Okay? And what you've got is Giovanni becomes G love, that's God loving not. And Battista in Baptist is Baptist in Italian, and Chieso is church in Italian. Okay, between 1846 and 1903 the Catholic Church had experienced its two longest pontificates in history up to that point. So that's why they were onto the fact that if you picked people who were particularly corrupted but they were young, that you could have a long period of unperturbed tyranny and villainy and genocide. So those were Pius IX and Leo XIII. The 13th number is the intervention of a new political movement, and they ruled for a total of 57 years. In 1914 the College of Cardinals chose Della Chiesa at the young age of 59. So can you see it? Long live the Pope. If he's a young Pope, that's what they're putting their remember that this is the Betfair network as well, and they're putting their money on choosing a youngster so that they can tyrannise the world for longer periods, indicating their desire for another long-lasting pontificate at the outbreak of World War I, which he labelled the suicide of civilised Europe. the suicide is actually a genocide, and the causal factors are explained further down the page. He immediately, when war was declared, he declared the neutrality of the Holy See. Yeah? Let's get down the page, okay? So, pious means peace. Leo is the Lion of Judah Rasta joke in Italian genocidal Ethiopian context. Even Noam Chomsky tells the truth about the Italians and the genocide in Ethiopia at the source of the Nile, which in those days was called the Pishon, because the Piso story was allowed to be everywhere, because only the elites could read and write in Latin. And the foot joke and the toe-sucking joke is quite safely shared amongst the people in the mafia in Italy, because pi is Italian for foot, and the foot of the willow joke and all of the willows and all of the war dead jokes about the willow being wrapped around your hat, all of it interlocks into the evil elite plan to cull the ordinary person and to keep everybody else at the top of the food chain who can read and write filthy rich but genocidal. There is no way that you can be a good pope, as you'll see later on, because they take them out. In 1917, Benedict promulgated Code of Canon Law, which was released on May the 27th, the creation of which he had prepared with Pietro Gasparri and Eugenico. Yeah, eugenics is the kill them if they're slightly dysfunctional or slightly irregular when they're born, like the Prime Minister's children now are. Yeah? That's Eugenio Pacelli. So eugenics and peace all wrapped in to the same original name for this guy. He used to be that, Eugenio Pacelli. He became Pope Pius XII, the Nazi Pope, during the pontificate of Pope Pius X, okay? So they're all being groomed for greatness and genocide, yeah, and part of the master race, and all of it is part of the Aryan myths that encompass the whole of Northern Europe and drive along the monarchies there for all of biological history. The new Code of Canon Law is considered to have been stimulated religious life and activities throughout the Church. He named Pietro Gasparri his Cardinal Secretary of State and personally consecrated Nuncio Eugenio Pacelli, the future Pope Pius XII. So they're in league in World War I, and their successors are already groomed for power to be the bosses and the diaspora leaders for the Odessa affairs that are sung about by popular culture and are the Christmas dream joke, the sun's gone in again. Yeah, there is a God. That's the Odessa Christmas dream joke, and the person who made those musicals is Andrew Lloyd Webber, who this year had a heart attack. None of that has been reported upon since he had the heart attack. Yeah, all of it is creating panic because they know that God is alive and well and is going to bring this down, okay? And when you look at the timelines, yeah, and the list of popes, it's quite obvious that they have nowhere to go now, because all of the people that have been planted to end this and make the menace Islam have been stopped in their tracks, and they dare not go any further because they'll get shot as traitors from their prime ministerial offices and their papal residence. After World War I. So World War I caused great damage to Catholic missions throughout the world. Benedict XV revitalised these, asking in maximum illad for Catholics throughout the world to participate. For that he has been referred to as a Pope of the missions. That is the genocides on other people's countries all around the world. Yeah, it's the genocide of the thing that was laughed at about Pope Gregory IX was that he imposed on the Jewish nations a declaration that they were fit for nothing other than to be religious slaves for the whole of their lifetime until doomsday. And that is, that is the persecution of the Jewish nation by the Christian nation until the end of time, and that will be revealed there. They've run out of time. They've had to change all of their story, like the Jehovah's had to do in 1914, which was going to be the end of their world. The money is still rattling into the coffers. Okay, his last concern was the emerging persecution of the Catholic Church in Soviet Russia. Okay, and the famine there after the revolution. Remember that Russia and Catherine the Great is totally British owned, and I've got all the director numbers for Kissinger and all of the Rothschilds and all of the royal princes who are on the Future of Russia Foundation with the Murdochs. Benedict XV was devoted to the Blessed Virgin Mary, who never existed, and she might be able to help me keep this a secret from the Inland Revenue and the Customs and Excise people, because the whole of it is the same sad joke. None of it ever happened, but all of you swallow it, and you have to pay a fortune, because they take the money for democracy from you now rather than releasing it from the central bank. Same at the churches, 2 collections every week. I cannot get the truth about the fundraising at the Jehovah's, but I'm not particularly worried. They know I know all of their truths now, and all of the pathetic cover-ups that they engage in, even about international news in our region, in people that are never away from the DSS office. Okay, after 7 years in office, and this is the attack on the communist menace. That's the commies attacked by the Tommies in British uniforms. That's this joke about his drinking cabinet being moved 2 metres closer to Berlin so that the whole of the British Army can be slaughtered as it pops its head above the trench. He, in this episode, puts the hat, the tin hat of a British soldier, chucks it up in the air, and it comes back looking riddled with bullet holes. Okay? That's their joke. And their joke is that if we can make laughs and belly laughs for our commanders-in-chief to laugh about in the palace when they get their knighthood by obfuscating world history, we'll do it this way. Corporal punishment, major star. So if you defect from these armies, they get you to dig your own grave, they line you up in front of a duke's wall, and then they shoot you. Your head becomes riddled with bullet holes, and that's your own forces that do that to you. And these guys are allowed to make the jokes, and they're sponsored by Kellogg's and Walt Disney. Okay, so the commies attacked by the Tommies and the Connies. The Connies are the Conservatives and are the bunnies who are the double agents in World War I and World War II. They then become the head of BBC Light Entertainment, and they launch all of the Hanna-Barbera comedies, and Hanna-Barbera is a joke about St. Barbara, the patron saint of explosives and dynamite. After 7 years in office, Pope Benedict XV died. The sun's come out again on 22nd January 1922 after battling pneumonia since the start of that month. They start and end in the Arian and Piso catacombs. Okay, he was buried in the grottos with 2 Christian T's, 2 Christian crosses. In the grue with 2 Christian crosses in it of St. Peter's Basilica. They start and end in the Arian Piso catacombs. Look at my videos that I've made on the life of Abelard Reuchlin and his insightful work into the Christianity fraud. They wonder how they get along so long in the catacombs. To this day, he is possibly the least remembered pontiff of the 20th century. That's because we've got a horrific, the biggest death toll in any war that the world ever engaged in was World War I. Okay? And they moved only 2 meters forward as millions got culled, and that becomes the lilies of the field joke, which comes into the story later on, as always. Okay? To this day he is possibly the least remembered pontiff of the 20th century, overshadowed by the likes of successor such as Pope Pius XII, the Nazi diaspora Pope, and Pope John Paul II, the first Jew officially to be appointed to the papacy in the Vatican. Okay? The timelines have gone all wrong now, and the person who's going to end it comes into the story in the listings, but they do not yet appreciate who that is. But I think they do, which is why I'm giving them 24 hours notice to change tomorrow's sermon, and they need to be really aware of the mortal risks that they are now treading to cover up the crimes of world leaders for the whole of brutalized world history. Okay, so that's tab number 1. Let's just go down it one by one. Raphael, Monaco. I think this is one of the people that helped to choose him. There's the Cross Keys. There's a massive Italian owned pub in the centre of Kelso, in a square that used to be named Ineos Square, and Ineos is the inscription on Jesus' cross. It's also the name of the company that runs Grangemouth and persecutes the slaves there, even if they've got degrees in chemistry, which I used to think was really sinister, because the chemists and the mathematicians are part of the elite teams that confuse the world with nuclear physics and theories about their understanding of the massive universe that gets people in Oxbridge massive motor neuron disease attacks. And that is the guy that sits in the wheelchair all of his time. I forget his name. Every time he advances a new theory about the universe, he gets disabled further and further, and he's now totally crippled. Yeah, and I understand that now, and that is why you get no news of Lord Patton or any of the people that had their heart attacks several months ago. Right then, so this is a backroom man, Raphael of Monaco. You've heard of Raphael the Jewish angel before, I think. That leads to the naming of the British Air Force, if you're unenlightened at this stage. That's the British Air Force that fought against the Germans, yeah, in both wars, yeah, and all of the explanations for the sparking of those wars is contained in this story. It's going to take 2 videos. Okay, one cannot fail to notice that Raphael is one of the 6 Jewish angels, and that 6 is a magic number for the sad bastards. I should not blaspheme, but that's another reason for me making the video not on the Sabbath, although this is the Jewish Sabbath. Yeah, and I don't know whether or not the Jews are still feel persecuted by those papal declarations that were made by Pope Gregory IX way back when they were burning the witches. Pyramid earring icons and cross keys images, part of globalized art now. Okay, so this is a Raphael, that's the RAF. I don't think I've got any icons of our Air Force on any of my world history indictments nearby, but we've got American airmen that pretended that they were the right stuff but were replaced by the rocket scientists. All of it is a diversion, like nuclear physics. Yeah, and all of the nuclear physicists win Nobel Prizes, and what they do for real is to deliver the heavy water for the atom bomb. That's done in Norway, then it's done in New Zealand, and then it fuels the Arabic and the Israeli nuclear weapon dumps. Yeah, and that means that nuclear free South Africa is not really nuclear free at all, and all of that leads to the exploding of nuclear plants all across the Baltic coast that are perfectly capable of keeping us warm and fed and productive in our factories, and that is the Chernobyl explosion, which was not an accident either. Those are mortal plans, okay? And that was the Chancellor of Germany, Gerhard Schroeder, who's now on the board at Gazprom, and all of those people who were trained to be the German chancellors went either to Göttingen or to Heidelberg, like many of the rocket scientists and all of the nuclear physicists who went to America to complete the project. Some of them came to leafy Britain and launched the RAF, and I've told you about the people that are on Aegis Defence Systems Limited, field marshals and squadron leaders. Yeah, all of it is a massive money stream, and all of them have a massive conscience. And I know that the elites in this sector are beginning to suffer from it, but they're relatively innocent here. Okay, so let's tell you about Raphael Monaco La Valletta with 2 Christian crosses in his last name. And that could be confused for a Scotsman with the word wallet. And I've got a little comment here which is quite sardonic of me, and I don't understand what sardonic is. He's a nice looking guy. He's a fat bastard. Can barely get fitted into the chair that looks like a throne. Okay? Styles of Raphael Monaco La Valletta, 2 pyramids as his icon, referenced as His Eminence, informal style cardinal, and he is part of the religious team at fucking Ostia. You remember my exposures of Ostia? That's the Wolverine hub. Remember that Rome was discovered and invented by Romulus and Remus, that were brought up by wolves, and they're in sheep's clothing, but the whole story is totally twisted. Okay, so Ostia is the place where the Roman navies used to be incompetent, and that's why it's in the Gladiator movie. Yeah, Ostia is where the Roman army is camped up when the slaves are about to free the world. And the irony of that is that that's the navies, yeah, and they cannot save the slaves because the powerful people have already got contracts with the people in the togas, yeah, and all of it is a huge joke for them. So remember the Ostia word, and this is where this guy started the revolution that ended up being World War I. Right then, and Raphael Monaco La Valletta is a cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church who served as secretary of the Supreme Sacred Congregation of the Holy Office, and cynically I have put the PA is launched. Yeah, my PAs around the world have been lovely, and at the time when I worked for them they appeared to be really loyal. Nobody will even give me their contact details now. Several of them have been on rehab. One of them was named Hessian, which I now appreciate is a German mercenary army person. Right then, she's really lovely, and she still talks to me occasionally. Okay, so then the Romans feared sailing because they had to fight against the Phoenicians and the Carthaginians, and eventually Britain rules the waves. Okay, so the armies in the Gladiator joke are to be released onto the world and are waiting for that role in Ostia. So we've got the nominees are born in Aquila. Raphael Monaco La Valletta was born in Aquila. That's the most earthquake region in the whole of the Italian country, and was of a family from Chieti. Yeah, that contains the word Kai, which is the Cairo joke, and all of the Egyptian myths, and all of it comes into the Piso stories. Okay, and this guy got a doctorate in theology. That's not ancient history like Christopher Martin at Coldplay in yesterday's video. It's in theology. Yeah, but his family would not let him do that first, or is that another one of the popes? And he earned his doctorate Etrusca Irius in both canon and civil law. Yeah, so he did a law degree first, and he did a doctorate in law before they would allow him to become a pope candidate. He ended his studies at the Pontifical Academy of Ecclesiastical Nobles, yeah, and this is in Minerva Street. Yeah, one of the earlier gods, like the Egyptian god jokes, and every time Joseph is mentioned, that's Joseph and the coat of many colours, and the parent of God is Joseph, who's just a carpenter. Okay, he was created and proclaimed cardinal priest of Santa Croce in Jerusalem. That just happens to be in Rome, actually. Santa Croce, that's Santa Cruz in Jerusalem. That's the saint of the Christian fucking cross. So they're laughing at the martyrdom of their own icon, and they name the saints after people that never existed. They work in that building in Rome that is pictured there, and they call it the Santa Croce building in Jerusalem. There you go. It's in Rome. Quite sturdy looking. But if that were in Aquila, it would just be rubble several times again, almost every decade in Aquila, because Aquila is right next door to Paganonia, and the gods do not like that to be laughed at. Right then. And in the alumni of this institution, you have people called Cardinal Gorgon. Yeah, that's the curly-headed creature that was beheaded by the man called Perseus, who's the Duke of Northumberland, who's my employer on the shooting estate. Yeah, beheading the Gorgon. Have you heard of that story? That's the curly-headed feminine presence that keeps the world ever so dangerous. Yeah, and in the Catholic Church they aren't let the females in yet, but that might be the response that we get in about 22 hours time. Yeah, nothing surprises me. They will not stop stooping, which is why the gods have them in panic, and they have that massive tremor, and the sun is flittering in and out as we speak, because they know that the whole of those clerical lives are dedicated to deceiving all of their honest followers. And last week they launched a shop. It's not on the business register yet. When it appears there, I will let you know who the directors are. I do not believe that they will have the front. So the Testa joke is that is Tesla, who was George Herbert Bush's dad's technician. Yeah, the Tesla man is alleged to be capable of creating the world's weather patterns and creating massive thunderstorms and massive lightning storms like the Pope got when he was inaugurated, both Benedict and Francis. Francis is a genocidal regime leader in Latin America. He conducts the Caravan of Death and the Operation Condor genocides in league with Mrs. Thatcher's friends. Which is why, when she needs to be re-elected, she takes our world to war against Argentina. Okay, and she's still the world's greatest woman. Right then, he was appointed, so this is the man, Raphael Monaco La Valletta. He was appointed Vicar General, so they're getting the other denominations covered for their sins now, by Pope Pius on 21st December 1876. That's the 13 political launch number again. He participated in the conclave of 1878 that elected Pope Leo the 13th, another 13, another Leo, the Lion of Judah, the genocide in Ethiopia. When Ethiopia and the Nile were being brutalised by the G8. It's the Italians what did for the Ethiopian genocide. Okay, and there we've got the stories about the First Council of Nicaea and Sylvester Stallone coming into the filmmaking sectors. Yeah, and the Turin Oratory, Sebastian Valfrey, Piazzi della Minerva, central Rome. Minerva is one of the ancient gods in the Mediterranean region. Okay, the nuncios, all of it is a massive set of cover-ups, and all of the dogma that they write is just a laugh. But the war graves are very, very real, and many of those people do not even get a headstone because they're mass graves. He was appointed Camerlengo, Major Penitentiary of the Apostolic Penitentiary. That's the incarceration vent in America now. Indulgences. Yeah, so what they do are they commit sins, they call them indulgences, and they use them to appoint the next set of saints. From 12th February 1884 until his death, he was elected to the Suburbicarian See of Ostia on 24th May 1889, and thus became Dean of the Sacred College of Cardinals. He died in 1896. The year 1888 is when all of the people were killed at Wounded Knee in America, in the name of Christianity, in the cavalry joke that is the Calvary Hill death place for the false icon that was Jesus Christ. Are you getting the magnitude of it? Let's see if there's anything else highlighted. We can move on. Okay, and we've got a couple of jokes about the Lord of the Rings. So he was preceded by Eduardo Borromeo and Luigi Billio. Yeah, so that's Bilbo and Boromir. And it's ever so cheap, and the whole of the media for all of their lives are cheap shot scamsters who have no integrity, no depth, no capacity to do any worthy research at all. And there's the Cross Keys icon that means that they're in Kelso keeping an eye on me in the town square that used to be the place that had the same inscription on its wall, the Ineos place. It's now become the name of the local duke, that is Inniscare. And the people that are in the scams in the Zulu banks still use it. I will show you that. The sun's gone in again. Okay, Cross Keys, geopolitical manipulation out of the Vatican and into the whole of the free world, and it looks like a beehive at the top. That's the Cardinal's hat. Right then, I think that's that one. So, the English papal candidate. Let me take you into this story. I've never heard of him before. There was actually an English pope who became involved in the Sicilian Wars. And I forget what his name is. It's now a brewery or a beer producing company. And he was from Hertfordshire, where the Rothschilds prevail. Yeah, not many surprises in my stories nowadays. Right, and this has got lots of highlighter on it, as if it might be in the prostitution sector, and it is. Okay? Oh, this fucker is involved, and this is Raphael Mary Del Val. Okay, another Jewish angel, another Lord of the Rings character. Valdivia is the world's biggest earthquake, and my wife's name, until she deserted me almost less than a year ago. There's still less than 1 year. The threshold for desertion, even if there are grounds, is 2 years. Yeah, I'm going to have to live in poverty for a wee bit while longer, but yeah, the world will be freed before that period of time is over. So what we've got with Raphael Mary Del Val is, and I'm blaspheming again, this fucker is involved out of Bournemouth and into the leadership team of the Vatican just in time to spark violent arguments in Sarajevo then joins the cast of the Lord of the Rings movie. Yeah? Those guys with the Scottish accents. So in the Lord of the Rings movie, all the little hairy-feeted people have got Scottish accents. Yeah? One of them's called Merry, and when they walk past the fields of gold, the Val d'Or joke, what comes out of those fields and the massive cornfields that surround them, because they're maize fields, yeah, that's the maize joke. Yeah, we used to take our family to visit mazes and to spend a lot of the time being confused in them for recreational pleasure. Okay, what comes out of the maze in the Lord of the Rings story is the apple that is the icon for the tree of life. Okay, that's that apple. Yeah. And that is what is in the Garden of Eden, and all of the bullshit that drives all of these false religions along for all of biological history. Okay, so those are the jokes that killed Eva. So Eve is in the Garden of Eden. She's the guilty person there, but all of that is just part of the Piso stories that tell the story of the Old Testament and the New Testament. And every time I go to church, I learn something shocking about it. Last week it was the Esther genocides. Yeah, when the king gets a new prostitute, she's called Esther. She does not reveal that she's Jewish until she's got the king's favours, and then she slaughters the other army because she's got his ear. Yeah, his ear. Yeah, she's doing the pillow talk, and that is the role of all of the Jewish women. I'm led to believe all of them are obligated to become part of the intel armies, which is why I keep asking questions about my brother-in-law and his circumcision and my wife's legitimacy to be part of the Christian oath. But the Jewish have it really tied up, because when you get into a Jewish marriage, the family then become Jewish, and if they circumcise my boys, there will be hell to pay. Okay, I should keep it open and communicative. I should not issue death threats, yeah, because I'm a pacifist and these are greedy, sad bastards, and I try to make friends with everyone. I'll be at the racecourse this afternoon making friends with all of the horsey jokers, because they know also now the power of my campaign. The horses drop down, sometimes the owners drop down, sometimes my employers drop down. Yeah, and they call me sir on the streets now, which is quite pathetic. I do not want to be an elite. It has all sorts of bad connotations in world history forever. Okay, so Eva Cassidy sings about having her breath take away. She also sings about Dark-Eyed Molly, another Jewish angel, and all of her songs about the fields of gold and the Val d'Or jokes are what got her cancer in her very early 30s. Okay, the Dark-Eyed Molly now, if you look for it, and Eva Cassidy, it's completely removed from the whole of the internet base. Even on the playlist that she made, every one of her religious jokes and her profiteering jokes about the acquisition of gold have been taken out by the team at YouTube, who censor most of my videos in undisclosed countries. Okay, it ties one into banking dynasties that still run massive Ponzi scams out of London, and that is covered up in the brutalisation of the Zulus and the whole of sub-Saharan Africa to shield the papal Anglo-Spanish involvement and the Wars 1 and 2, which we must not talk about, as issues of national security. Yeah, but you can talk about moving the drinks cabinet for Butcher Haig 2 metres further towards Berlin. That's okay. So, Raphael Merry Del Val. I don't know how they're going to cover all of this up in less than 24 hours, but I am intrigued. Yeah, and the neurological syndromes that they are getting, I understand them entirely, and I try to explain to them that if they come clean and start worshipping the gods in the skies again, that things might get better. But all of them are too stupid to see that. Right then. And it's really, really dangerous. So, So, that's his christening details. It took quite a long time to get through that issue alone. There's His Eminence, Raphael Merry del Val, servant of God. So he became a saint. Yeah? Do you get the picture? He became a saint. He was appointed Secretary of the Congregation of the Holy Office on 14th of October 1914. Yeah, he's a power broker. He's English speaking. He's Hispanic. He can speak all sorts of languages. And he's not a diplomat. Take my word for it. Other posts: Cardinal Priest of Santa Prassede, Archpriest of St. Peter's Basilica, 1914 to 1930. Yeah, that's the choice of popes leading up to 2 world wars. Okay? And is consecrated by Mariano Rampolla del Tindaro, another power broker, and all of them keep using male and female gender names that are biblical characters that never ever existed. Okay? And he was created a cardinal by Pope Pius X, who, as I'm led to believe, may be relatively innocent in this story. It's Pius XII that was the Nazi Pope. Okay? The birth name for this guy, yeah, the birth name is, wait for it, Raphael the Jewish angel, Maria the Mother of God, Joseph the Father of God, Pedro, yeah, the Peter, the first Pope, the man who looks after the pearly gates, that Coldplay sing about their confession that Peter never existed. Yeah, Francisco, the current Pope, who used to be a Jesuit, and this is the first white Pope that has been appointed to the Vatican, because the black popes are the Jesuits before they came out, and this is the end of the world story. Yeah, the end is nigh. Yeah, so the Jesuits are launched to try and bring things to an end, and that's why the demonization of other religions is being used now to try and spark World War III. Okay, the other names are the Borgias, the Domingos, the Gerardos, the Santissima Trinidad, Mary del Val y Zulueta. Yeah, that takes you into massive financial crimes in the City of London even today. I've got that couple of tabs down. Okay, this guy was born, that's Raphael Zuleta for short, Vali Zulieta. He was born 10th of October 1865, London, England, UK. Yeah, I don't know what his postcode, but it must have been really difficult getting his postcode onto the envelope. And his gender, he could be a Mr. or a Mrs. before he became a Papa or a Mama. Are you getting it? And then he's allowed to change it when he becomes more powerful. Right. So, English speaking Hispanic with lots of business interests right into Zululand. Previous posts: Apostolic Delegate to Canada, 1897 to 1899. Titular Archbishop of Nicaea, 1900 to 1903. That's the Nicene Creed. Everything gets renegotiated when their old sins are discovered. Cardinal Secretary of State, 1903 to 1914. He's also got the mysterious icon with the pyramids that look like earrings or nipples of Venus piercing devices. Yeah. Here's his transcript now. Raphael Merry del Val y de Zulueta, 10th October 1865 to February 1930 was a British-born Spanish Roman Catholic cardinal. A cause for his canonisation was opened in 1953 at the behest of Pope Pius XII, the Nazi Pope. He now has the title Servant of God and is a Christian saint. Isn't that lovely? There we have Raphael Meri del Val, Eugenio Pacelli, that's eugenics, peace, and Nicola Canali, that's the joke about the Suez and all of the massive dams and the canalisation of all of God's magnificent creations into rivers that are totally useless, yeah, and cannot be used as signals from the gods as they were designed to be. Okay? And we've got the signing in 1914 of the Serbian Concordat. That's the Balkans, where all of the genocides occurred. Yeah? Yeah, and all of the ethnic hatred that results from that leads to new wars led by NATO in the 1980s and 90s, and that leads to genocide, and that is led by Lord Guthrie of the NM Rothschild Bank, who lives in Dundee, right next door to that guy's university, yeah, where they're short of funds for every scientific initiative now, and they're beginning to sack people without any redundancy pay. Okay, so he was born as Rafael Maria Jose Pedro Francisco Borgia Domingo Gerardo de la Santissima Trinidad Meri del Val y Zulieto at the Spanish fucking embassy. His mother was Sofia Josefa de Julieta, died 1925, elder daughter of Pedro Jose de Zulieta, Count of Torre Diaz of the London Bank of Zulieto and Co, and his wife Sophia Ann Wilcox, who was of Scottish and Dutch ancestry. The Zulietas were an old Basque family ennobled as Counts de Torre Diaz in the 19th century. His father was Rafael Meri del Val, right up to 1917. I'm now going to click on this and show you that they are still at the trough. Yeah, I'm not hedging on any issue now. The truth is coming pouring out. Yeah, and every one of the culprits needs to know that they need to change their ways, or they will be limping like the Pope, or they will be like Lord Patton, or worse. Right then, when that loads up, we'll go there. Oh. So, I looked for the word Zulueta, and yeah, we've still got 3 or 4 businesses in the City of London. I did not open this one because it's got no money at the bank. I could open it now, but that's Carlos Zueta Ehlers Limited, active 0922 0677, 42 Mildmay Grove, South Flat, London 3, London, North 1, 4p. That's likely to be near Finchley or Notting Hill. Let's have a look at the directors, because I've not yet opened this. I'm quite excited. No money.